Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and welcome back to another pair of subscriber replays. We are continuing in the, the week of the Pansy. That sounds a bit weird, but that's kind of what we got to work with. This is another video including a couple of games from the unflappable Pansy, and in this game he is platooned up with the equally unflappable Baldric. Baldric is driving his French Tier 8 wheeled light tank, the Lynx 6x6, and Pansy is here in the M54 Renegade. They're both here on Sand River, and it is an all Tier 8 match. None of this plus or minus 1 or 2 tier wish-wash. So, how is this game going to go? Well, we shall just have to wait and see. I haven't actually played the M54 Renegade myself. Having a quick look at it, it looks to be pretty typical of an American heavy tank. You know, respectable frontal armour, decent turret, reasonable gun depression. Looks like the machine gun port that you can see there on top of the turret might be a bit of a weak spot. With a pretty nice 105mm gun. Pretty standard penetration for a tier 8 heavy tank of around 225 or something. And 360 alpha damage, which is a bit of an unusual alpha damage number, but it seems to be increasingly common as time goes on. For tanks that Wargaming want to give, you know, sort of 105-ish millimeter guns, but don't really want them to have the full 390 alpha damage. Anyway, Baldric's gone up to the north of the map, and he's going to be doing some spotting over there. Pansy's over here on the south of the map, and he's just bounced plenty of shots, but some of the bad guys, including one of the Panteras and a Lynx, are firing APCR at him. The special version. I'll get my terminology right in a minute, Wargaming? Anyway, so he has taken a couple of penetrating hits there, but I'd just like to point out that despite everyone's claims that, you know, premium ammunition makes armour completely worthless, Pansy's managed to bounce some APCR rounds here. Premium APCR, I should specify. So, yeah, make of that what you will. Anyway, he's up to about 1300 assistance already, one damaging hit himself with 371 damage, and blocked about 1700 damage with his armour. And Sand River, to be fair, is quite a nice map to be playing your kind of American tanks on, whether they be heavy or otherwise. All these dunes and undulations tend to give pretty good opportunities to be making good use of your gun depression, like that, and any turret armour you might have, so that's pretty sweet. Same thing can be said of a lot of the British tanks. Sand River's quite a nice map. Oh, that's beautiful to have for them. ISU 152 comes over the ridgeline, but the poor guy, well, I say poor guy, that was just a bad play, let's be honest. Pansy tracks him right on that ridge there, and if his friendly tanks hadn't finished the ISU off there, Pansy would have done. Lovely shot there, and it looks like the ISU assuming he was using a repair kit, must have already burned it, because otherwise I'm pretty sure he would have repaired his track there, because that's an awful position to be caught out in. Oh, and Baldric's come over to this side of the map. Frankly, as I said, that was just an awful play from that ISU 152. It was about as bad as it could have got. I struggle to think of a play he could have made that would have been worse, if I'm being honest. Snapshot there at the SU 130 PM doesn't go in, but you can see Baldric has had a damn good slapping. But that means that bad guys are just going to come after him and try and pick up the kill right, and Pansy's able to punish one of the Lynxes for being so bold. Scoreline is 3-5. The friendly team here is not winning. Another attempted shot over on that SU 130 PM again. Not really working, but these shots are at relatively long range, so it shouldn't come as a huge surprise that those shots just aren't connecting. Generally speaking, in this game, American guns, whilst they tend to be good, they're not really designed for long-range work as a general rule of thumb. Their fully aimed accuracy is typically pretty mediocre. Ooh, a little bit of a driving flub between the two platoon mates there, but nothing too serious. No one dies from it, and friendly damage isn't a thing anymore, so we just move on. And if you have a look at the minimap, as well as the 3-7 scoreline, you'll see the enemies have pushed right down the river with quite a scary contingent of tanks. There's a 53 TP down there, as well as the 7032-122. That thing, I mean, I haven't played it myself, but it looks pretty ridiculous. Pansy manages to put a shot into the Lynx there. Will he be able to finish the guy off? It's awkward, because if he tries to finish the Lynx off, that Pantera or this SU is probably going to attempt to take advantage, and actually the Lynx decides discretion is the better part of valor, and he doesn't really like this engagement. Now, these enemy tanks really aren't pushing the friendly team here as much as perhaps one might like them to. Then again, 1, 2, 3, there are 3 of them versus 3 friendlies here, so go figure. SU tries to go for a heat shot into Pansy there, but it looks like it just gets absorbed by Pansy's tracks, and that's one of the things with heat ammunition. I mean, deal with it. High explosive round there, by the looks of it, into the SU to deal a shed ton of damage, and the SU does manage to put 1 shell into Pansy there for 525, which is close as damn it an average damage roll for that ridiculous 130mm gun. Lining up a shot there on the, what was that? Was that on the object? Not object, 7032. Either way, the shell doesn't hit, and you can see what I mean about American gun performance at longer ranges in this game. To make up for it, generally speaking, American guns get pretty good things like aim time and soft stats on the gun. It's just sniper rifles, as a general rule of thumb, they are not. Now, the scoreline is 8-10, which is not as bad as it was, but you can see there that the enemies are kind of all over the friendly base. And Baldrick's actually managed to pick up 3 kills, although we haven't been following his actions particularly throughout the course of this game. So he's definitely been putting in some work in his little light tank there. Baldrick is quite the light tank fan, so that doesn't really surprise me in the slightest. Pansy puts a shot there into the Carnarvon, drops down, really doesn't want to get shot by the bad guys there, and now we're in this kind of strange switcheroo situation where the enemy team are in the friendly base, and the friendly team, there's only 4 tanks. I'm not going to say they have control of the enemy base, but they have a presence in the enemy base. The enemy team do appear to be popping up to try and do something about the friendlies here. Stock KV4, poor guy, and Pansy's just taking advantage of what he can to put some shots into that guy. Looks like that guy might actually be completely stock, i.e. using the 107mm gun from the T150, poor sod, and Pansy's able to finish the chap off there. Baldrick's managed to pick up his 4th kill, I believe, by dealing with that Indian Panzer, and suddenly there are 4 enemies versus 3 friendlies, and things aren't looking as dire as they once were. So Pansy using his turret armor here, gun depression, and good view range. If you have a look at the minimap, you'll see Pansy, it looks like he's packing at least 445 meters view range, which is very nice. Takes a hit there from the Carnarvon, but in the process discovers that Carnarvon is stock. Using the 17-pounder gun, firing APCR, but there's no other way that Carnarvon's going to do 150 damage or 139. Takes another penetrating hit there from the Carnarvon, but in doing so, Pansy's managed to advance into a position where there are only 2 enemy tanks left, and he should be able to go hull down versus these guys. Looks like the Lynx and the Centurion have both decided discretion is the better part of valor. There goes the Centurion, just leaving the Lynx. The Lynx takes out Baldrick, unfortunately, which is a shame, as it looks like Baldrick had been having a bit of a good game there. And that leaves Pansy and the M4 Revelarice there. Nice bit of air from the enemy French light tank. And can Pansy land this shot? No, he can't. Oh dear. But the Lynx here, well, he could have driven to safety. Instead, he appears to be coming back toward a hull down American heavy tank. I'm not entirely convinced by the rationale behind this play, but Pansy's gun failing him there, or perhaps the aim just wasn't quite there. To be fair, he was trying to take the shot against Dan. At the time he pulled the trigger, unseen enemy tank. And we have a kind of Mexican standoff situation, but Pansy, of course, still has that M4A1 Revelarice, who, to give credit where credit is due, himself has racked up 3 kills, so he has not been sitting around doing nothing. And worth pointing out that despite the amount of premium ammunition people have fired in Pansy's general direction, and you can see up at the little damage counter at the top, there is a respectable amount of it, Pansy has still blocked 3,000 damage with his armour, and distracts that little light tank, so that the Revelarice can come along and give the guy a bit of a slapping. And so between them, just want to point out, Pansy in his M54 Renegade, Bebanik 100 in his M4A1 Revelarice, and of course Baldric in his Lynx. Between them they have 12 kills. I think I'd call that a little bit of a carry. Let's have a look at the post-game stats. So, that ended up being enough for an ace tanker, perhaps unsurprisingly. Hand of God, Spotter, Bruiser, Duelist, Fire for Effect, Fighter, Shellproof, Steel Wall, High Caliber, and a Patrol Duty medal, which is something you don't necessarily often see in a heavy tank. Then again, American tanks do generally pack pretty good view range, and you can see there that Pansy was doubling down on that. Don't know exactly what equipment Pansy was using here, and I don't know off the top of my head what the base view range of the Renegade is, but I would guess in order to get his view range up to there, either Pansy has an incredibly good crew who have eaten all of the crew skill books, or he might be using optics on this tank. So, we can see there that Pansy himself actually came top of the team by experience, with 4,868 damage, 4 kills, or 1,725 base experience. And if we just have a quick look there, Baldric was 4th on his team with 1,601 damage and 4 kills, and then the Revelarice with 1,622 damage and 4 kills. On the enemy team, well, okay, shout out to that Carnarvon, 2,681 damage done, 3 kills. Oh, but Chip, he was firing all of the premium APCR. Yes, but again, he was using the stock 17-pounder gun. I mean, he still did 2.6k damage with the 17-pounder gun in a tier 8 match. Like, just bear that in mind. Progetto and the Centurion also had decent games there, but apart from that, it kind of trails off toward the end. 26 shots fired, 15 hits, 15 penetrations for that damage count, most of which was from relatively close range. 16 hits received, 5 penetrated, 11 did not, for almost 3,000 damage blocked by his armour, 6 enemy vehicles spotted, 7 damaged, 4 destroyed, and 2.67k assistance damage to make up the rest of that experience that Pansy picked up, almost 3 kilometres travelled, and there seemed to be some additional payout going on at the time for a mission or something. Pansy made a 216,777 credit profit, which is pretty tasty. Although I'm looking at those numbers, and now that I'm looking at them, there must be some other source of credits in there, because 108,000 credits plus 81,000 credits minus 36,000 credits minus 7,000 credits does not 216,000 make. Either way, that's probably just a little bug somewhere, a little blurb, and we can see it again, because if you look at the experience, like, they do not total to the total XP that Pansy got. So there's some additional little bits going on in there. But either way, it was a lot of credits and a lot of experience and a very nice game. So, let's go and have a look at our second for today. So, here's our second match then. Pansy's not platooned up with anyone, and he's driving the Chinese Tier 8 Premium Heavy Tank, the 112. This is a tank I've not played in ages, and since I have played it, has received a number of buffs over time. We're here on Edsk, and this game is not going to be full of finesse and all that jazz. This is going to be quick, brutal, and dirty. All Tier 8 match, which, as I've said in other videos, these sort of matches are pretty good for getting a lot of experience in, because you've got enough hit points on the enemy team to rack up quite a considerable amount of damage, but at the same time, the armour on the enemy team is not so considerable that you're going to struggle penetrating all the things. Having said that, Pansy, of course, is in the 112, which has one of these derpy old Chinese 122mm guns, and so penetration is not really the tank's forte. But unlike something like the IS-6, the premium rounds on the 112 are heat ammunition with 250mm of penetration. So, First up, we have this E75 TS. I know from experience you're going to struggle to penetrate that guy with your regular ammunition frontally, because your regular ammunition only has, what, 183mm of penetration. Does, however, manage to put a regular round through the track there and into the tank. High penetration roll. I mean, it's not impossible to penetrate that guy with this gun, but it's just you can't expect to do it reliably. Centurion 5/1 there bounces on the hull of the Centurion. You have to bear in mind the Centurion 5, unlike its regular tech tree counterpart, actually gets a pretty good upper frontal plate. So if you don't hit it in the lower front plate, especially with lower penetration guns, you can expect to pick up a bounce there. And another shot there into the side of the Centurion. And this is really interesting because back when I played mostly the 112, this thing used to have an utter garbage lower front plate. And if people did shoot you in the lower front plate, there were fuel tanks there, so you would set on fire as soon as you could say, "Oh dear Lord, where's my fire extinguisher? Goodbye, Mr. Centurion." And I know there were people who liked this tank, but I used to find it quite painful. Since then, I believe the lower front plate has been buffed, and I even think the fuel tank has no longer been located behind that lower front plate, but I could be wrong. And this thing now seems to play a lot more like, well, the thing it was always compared to, a Chinese IS-6, I suppose. Oh, yeah, you're not going through the TS-5 with regular ammunition. Pansy is now firing heat ammunition, which against something like the TS5 is perfectly reasonable. Heat ammunition, lower front plate. I mean, your regular ammunition just does not cut it, and even you can say the heat ammo there, as you can see, just didn't go through. However, Pansy is up to 1800 damage done so far, and he's managed to pick up a kill. And if that Revelarice would just drive forward again, that would be nice, and Pansy can execute the fellow. Oh, score lines are 3-3. You can see the friendly team essentially have taken the field, and that, well, really, I mean, this is Ensk, this is a small map. It shouldn't come as a surprise to many people that the fight is probably going to be decided here in the town, as is often the case with Ensk. Okay, so can we get a shot on the Revelarice? No, not really. Ooh, Pansy gets spotted and a little stuck there on the corpse of a friend, shot into the rear of this TS5. There we go. And can we finish this TS5 off? Or the Revelarice, either would be nice, preferably the TS5, and boom, there we go. Bounces a shot from the Pantera, and is switching back to regular armor-piercing ammunition, because likely going to be facing a Revelarice or a Pantera. You don't need heat for either of those guys, and there goes the Revelarice. Kill number 3. Pushing forward now to deal with that Pantera. Oh no, E75 TS puts a shot into Pansy's side, which is a little unfortunate. And Pansy actually manages to pick up the kill there with regular AP. Nicely done. Again, not a reliable shot, but definitely one you can occasionally take. Udez there sets the guy on fire, and he is done. That's kill number 5, and the enemy team are quite rapidly running out of tanks. Side of the KV4, side of a... What is it with stock KV4s in these videos? Oh well, we're in these games. He's dead. Poor guys. At least that guy had the 122mm guns, not the 107, but even so, Jesus. Stock KV4s for days. Right, trying to get a shot onto that Centurion with his... Oh, that's over-angled. No, it's not over-angled. Oh, sorry, it's not a Centurion, it's a Carnarvon. My bad. And the Carnarvon actually manages to put a shot into Pansy there. Hello, Mr. Pantera. How are you doing today? You doing good? I'm glad to hear it. And there's only 2 guys left at this point. The Carnarvon and SU 130 PM, and Pansy is just lining up a shot on the lower front plate of that Carnarvon, and he is done. SU 130 PM is firing high explosive because, hey, it does more damage, right? I mean, maybe he had a reason for firing explosive, maybe he was engaging the Scorpion, but either way, it's not going to do him any good. VK picks up the kill, and that was the match. Like I said, this wasn't going to be a particularly long-winded one. So, let's go and have a look at the post-game stats. So, that ended up ended up, oh I can't do English at the moment, being enough for Ace Tanker, Bruiser, Arsonist, Duelist, Fire for Effect, Shellproof, Top Gun and a Radley Walters medal, as Pansy did actually manage to pick up 8 kills in that match in case it had escaped your attention. 3,993 damage done, 8 kills or 1,752 base experience. Shout out should also go to the friendly VK, who also managed a 3,000 plus damage game. Well done to him, even though he only managed the 1 kill. Sometimes things like kills and whatnot can have definitely a certain degree of luck to them, and Pansy managed to get it in that match. On the enemy team, commiserations to the Carnarvon and I suppose the Rheinmetall. Scorpion, both of whom managed 2k damage plus, but really that was a team effort on the part of Pansy's team. They just across the board did better than the enemies there. 19 shots fired, 18 hits, 14 penetrations for that damage count. 11 hits received, 2 penetrated, 8 did not, for 2,230 damage blocked by Pansy's armour. 10 enemy vehicles damaged, 8 destroyed, 782 assistance damage, and all for less than a kilometre travelled, because Ensk, basically. And when you total everything up, that was a 129, basically, 1,000 credit profit, and a good chunk of experience made. So, there we go. Some more Pansy-related action for you there. If you wish to submit your own replays to yours truly, then there should be a link in the video description taking you to the Discord server. Upload your replays to whatreplays.com, find the appropriate thread in the Discord server and chuck the URL in there, and I shall take a look. Those of you who are observant and have noticed on the end plates that this is a game from patch 1.7, will be aware that I'm a little bit behind on replays, due in no small part to the fact that I took about a year out from making them, so I'm currently about a year behind. This video has included games from almost exactly a year ago, December 2019, well, December/January 2019/2020. Anyway, if you would also like to support me on Patreon, there should be a link in the video description for that too, and there should be various bits and bobs popping up on the screen taking you to playlists or videos or whatever that you might enjoy, and you can subscribe if you haven't already done so, and that's quite enough of me rabbiting on, so I'll just finish by saying, as ever, I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.